corrections. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. My fellow countrymen and women, so I have called you here today to brief you on recent developments arising out of our investigations as a department. The briefing is in two parts. The first part relates to the arrest and detention of Mr. Kobina Boahen and Madam Angela Boahen and other suspects on March 20th and March 21st, respectively. The second will consist of an update, very broad in character, on the investigations arising out of or in connection with the oral report that was presented to me on the 10th of February this year. So first, to the Boahen case, because it has raised very significant interest because of the nature of the arrest. You will recall that he was arrested at the airport, and I started getting calls from all quarters regarding his arrest. So at about 9 p.m. on Thursday, March 20th, 2025, an operation carried out by a team of investigators from the Economic and Organized Crime Office, which is under the Ministry of Justice, led to the arrest of Mr. Kobina Boahen. The arrest was effected at the Kotoka International Airport in Accra when Mr. Boahen disembarked from the British Airways flight. Mr. Boahen is the immediate past Director General of the National Signals Bureau of the National Security Council. At about midday on Friday, March 21st, 2025, the investigators went on to arrest Madam Angela Boahen, whom I have indicated is the wife of Mr. Boahen. Madam Angela, the couple are shareholders and directors of a list of companies which the investigation establishes have been used for transactions which form the subject matter of the investigations. The arrest followed intensive investigations into the purchase of some cyber intelligence equipment by the National Signals Bureau, formerly known as the Bureau of National Communications. It must be made clear from the outset that though under the Operation Recover All Loot government program, this operation does not form part of the list of cases which the oral committee submitted to the Attorney General this year. The operation was led by Mr. Raymond Archer, the Deputy Executive Director in charge of operations at EOCO. Here are the facts on which the arrests were made. On February 25th, 2025, around 11:30, 23:20 hours, EOCO received intelligence that suspect Kobina Boahen left the country for the United Kingdom via British Airways flight BA 078 to London. Days after that, EOCO received further intelligence that the suspect had flown from the United Kingdom to Dubai and had purchased an Emirates airline ticket, which suggested that he was expected to arrive in Ghana on Friday, March 21st, 2025 at 12 noon via Emirates flight number EK 187. On Thursday, March 20th, 2025, EOCO received intelligence again, additional intelligence, that the suspect had cancelled his flight and rescheduled his arrival to Ghana from Dubai to April 18, 2020. That's April 8th, not 18, April 8th, 2020. Now, I want this chronology to sink in because of a point that I will be making later on about why we are detaining him. On March 20th, around 3 p.m., EOCO's operational team, led by the acting deputy executive director in charge of operations, assessed its operational plan to include the possibility that the suspect could have traveled back to London to fly to Ghana in an attempt to evade surveillance. EOCO assessed with high confidence that the changes made by the suspect in terms of arrival date in Ghana may have been calculated step to mislead investigators and throw them off any possible surveillance. EOCO further assessed that the time of the cancellation of the Emirates flight coincided with the time the British Airways was expected to fly from Heathrow to Ghana. The decision was taken to place the suspect on a stop order and make emergency operational adjustments and brace for his unexpected arrival and arrest of the suspect on either British Airways or KLM, which was expected to arrive in Accra. An hour to the arrival of the British Airways flight 078 in Accra, EOCO received intelligence that a name similar to that of suspect Kobina Boahen, he had changed from K. Boahen to O. Boahen in the manifest, may be on the British Airways flight. The suspect had slightly altered his name on all, the name that is reflected on all his passports. Around 9 p.m. on March 21st, the suspect was stopped by Ghana Immigration Service as he attempted to use the commercially important person CIP terminal at the Kotoka International Airport. Now, he had changed his class from business class to economy, and decided to evade arrest through the CIP terminal. EOCO has evidence that the suspect has at least 2 service passports, one which expires in 2033 and another which expires in 2029. So he has 2 service passports. It means that he also has a normal passport. Usually you would have a normal passport before you are issued the service passport. EOCO is currently following up on intelligence that the suspect may be holding a foreign passport also, because from what I'm going to tell you, the massive wealth that he has accumulated from 2018 shows that it is possible for him to have bought citizenship in some of the countries or jurisdictions where you can actually, as an investor, buy citizenship. And also, his wife holds a British passport, which we have in our possession. Now, as I said, he is the immediate past Director General of the National Signals Bureau. He left office sometime in February 2025. NSB, or the National Signals Bureau, is a successor organization to the now defunct Bureau of National Communications. Prior to the enactment of the NSB Act, that is the National Signals Bureaus Act 2020, which transformed the BNC into the NSB, Mr. Boahen served as Deputy Director of the BNC and subsequently is Director from 2017. In other words, he has been in the management and control of Ghana's signal infrastructure since 2017. As the Director of BNC, Mr. Boahen was a co-signatory to the BNC's Director's account at Fidelity Bank. While serving as Director of BNC, however, he and his wife, Ms. Angela Boahen, registered a company on October 23rd, 2018, which they named, and listen carefully, BNC Communications Bureau Limited. It is important to note that the similarity between the names here, that is BNC, was designed, to engage in a criminal enterprise, which will unfold as I go further. For purposes of differentiation, we will call the private company Private BNC and call Ghana's Signal and National Security BNC the National BNC. Mr. Boahen, who is the head or who was the head of the BNC, and his wife, are listed as directors of the private BNC. Okay, so they register the company, and they, the two of them, together are the directors of the company, the two directors of the company. On October 26, 2018, the couple opened a corporate account for their private BNC at Universal Merchant Bank, UMB. According to the mandate on the account, either of the directors could sign checks and approve transactions on the account. In his capacity as director of the National BNC, Mr. Boahen on January 30th, 2020, signed a contract on behalf of the government of Ghana and the National Security Council on the one hand, and on the other hand, an Israeli company called ISC Holdings Limited. The contract was for the purchase of a cyber defense system software at a price of $7 million United States of American dollars. Let us call this contract the GOG ISC contract. On February 6, 2020, Mr. Boahen then transferred an initial amount of 27,100,000 Ghana cedis, that is from the National BNC's operations account at Fidelity Bank to the private BNC account at UMB. Official documentation on the transfer revealed that the amount was for the payment of cyber defense system software, which the National BNC was buying from ISC Holdings in Israel. Mr. Boahen, in effect, transferred the money from the National BNC to his private company, the private BNC. A review of the transactions on the bank accounts reveals that once the funds from the National BNC landed in the account of his private BNC at UMB Bank, Mr. Boahen caused his private BNC to transfer an amount of 9,537,520 Ghana cedis to ISC Holdings in Israel. By the exchange rate at the time, this amount was the Ghana cedi equivalent of 1,750,000 United States of American dollars. To justify or facilitate the transfer of the 9.5 million and the 9.5 million, Mr. Boahen fraudulently attached a copy of the Government of Ghana ISC contract as well as an invoice which he held out as an invoice issued by ISC Holdings Limited or in respect of the Government of Ghana ISC contract. On March 18, 2020 and March 30th, 2020 respectively, he again transferred 21 million Ghana cedis from the National BNC Director's account at Fidelity Bank to the same private BNC account at UMB. The narration of the transaction indicated that it was for the payment of the cyber defense systems that the National BNC was buying. The transfer from the National BNC's account brought the total transfers that he made to his private BNC to 49 million Ghana cedis. By the exchange rate at the time, this amount was exactly the Ghana cedi equivalent of 7 million United States of American dollars. The exact full amount which he quoted as the price at which ISC Holdings sold the cyber defense equipment to government of Ghana. All the payments transferred to the invoice, a number from ISC Holdings, all the payments reference the invoice number from ISC Holdings to the National BNC. Importantly, after the initial transfer of the 9.5 million Ghana cedis, which was the equivalent of 1.750 United States of American dollars from the private BNC to ISC Holdings, no further payments were made to ISC Holdings. A review of the transactions on the private BNC account reveals that after the payment of the 1,750,000, Mr. Boahen and his wife began applying the rest of the funds for their personal use, making transfers to local third parties, personal investment, as well as transfers to unknown persons. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we have all the account details, we have all the receipts, and any person who took money from Mr. Boahen from that account, we know. Now, our investigation, which was conducted by EOCO, as I've indicated, has established that the ultimate beneficial, in essence, the difference between 49 million Ghana cedis being the money Mr. Boahen transferred from the bank account of the National BNC to his private BNC, and 9.5 million being the money he actually paid to the ISC Holdings for the software, ended up with him and his wife. That is to say that the sum of 39,462,480 Ghana cedis of taxpayers' money went into their private pocket. The investigation has revealed that the ultimate beneficial owner of BNC Communications Limited is another company known as Advantage Solutions Limited. 10 other companies are through a very complex web of shareholding and directorship connected to Mr. Boahen and his wife, Angela. Investigations have also established that monies, mostly proceeds of crime from the Advantage Solutions Limited and BNC Communications Bureau Limited and other similar sources, have been transmitted under very suspicious circumstances through the bank accounts of these companies. The investigations have revealed so far that the suspect and his wife have registered companies which we are currently tracking. We are tracking all the companies. There are about 10 of them that they created, with Advantage Solutions mostly owning all the companies. For purposes of the investigation that is ongoing, we are not going to disclose those companies, but I want to warn any executive, director, or employee of each of the companies who, knowing that Mr. Boahen has been arrested, if they make movement of assets, we will track and arrest them and prosecute them. So they are all warned. All banks are also warned that if we see any wire transfers or cash withdrawals on any of the accounts belonging to Mr. Boahen and his companies, the bank managers and all their employees who are involved in those transfers will equally be arrested. After this press conference, no activity, and we are monitoring all their bank accounts from the Financial Intelligence Center. With the press of a button, we can see the movement of money, on any of the accounts. So we are monitoring that very, very closely. We know, for instance, that the 3 banks that they have been dealing with, in substantial financial transactions are UMB, Fidelity Bank, and Stanbic Bank. So we are monitoring them keenly. And the managers of this bank, if they are listening to me, should be careful about what they do on any account connected to Mr. Boahen and his wife and their companies. The investigations also established that the proceeds from the suspect's activities were used to buy significant landed properties and other assets of considerable value both in Ghana and elsewhere. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the press, my fellow countrymen and women, I want to give you a sample of what we have discovered so far. We have tracked most of the assets. So the properties that are in their names, their joint names, or sometimes in their in their individual names, are as follows. We have number 2 Stream Park Drive, Mayfair Estates, LA, that is Accra. For that, they deposited, and we have the deposit slip as well as the receipt from the estate developer, $1 million United States of American dollars. Number 6, Edith Avenue, Mayfair Estates, Accra. Deposit 500,000 United States of America. That's American dollars. That's the initial deposit. All right. Then we have number 7, Edith Avenue, Mayfair, 200,000 United States of American dollars deposited for the property. Number 8, Edith Avenue, Mayfair Estates, La Accra, 97,815 United States of American dollars was deposited for that property. But we are sure that other cash payments were made to complete the purchase and then the transfer of ownership. So we are tracing all those documents. Number 9, Edith Avenue, Mayfair Estate, 270,000 United States of American dollars deposited, initial deposit for the purchase. Number 10, Edith Avenue, Mayfair Estates, Accra, 150,000 United States of American dollars deposited. Now he also owns a company known as Vertex Properties. Vertex Properties, and we've traced the proceeds of crime to Vertex Properties also. They have Vertex Properties owns 27 houses located at Oyarifa. Each house costs, an estimated cost of 295,000 United States of American dollars. We also know that they have 2 properties in London that we are tracking, and I'm going to trigger the mutual legal assistance between the United Kingdom and Ghana for us to be able to lay hands on those properties. Now we also know we've been following the bank transactions very closely, and we know that on February 11, 2020, they made a 16 million fixed deposit from the payment received from BNC Security. This was from the initial payment of 27,100,000 Ghana cedis. On April 3rd, 2020, Mr. Boahen alone withdrew 7,250,000 Ghana cedis, okay, in cash. He withdrew that in cash. This payment came out of the second transfer of the 21 million from BNC National Security to BNC, his private company. On April 24th, 2020, 1.5 million cash withdrawal was made. On the same day, he made payments to a real estate company to the tune of 1,566,000. So you see the coincidence, okay, of the transactions that were taking place. Then February to September, out of the 49 million, which was transferred from BNC National Security to his private BNC, about 99% was withdrawn by him personally, and they were largely very large cash withdrawals. And we believe that those were the withdrawals that were made for him to make the deposit for the properties that are enumerated above. Now we are still tracking suspect Edu Boahen and his assets, and then of course his wife, but we will conclude in the next few days and file charges against him and the other suspects. So they are currently in detention. We had given them bail conditions from EOCO, he and his wife and the other suspect. Now the reason I'm not mentioning the other suspects is that for purposes of our strategy, and if they are listening to me, they should take this very seriously, the other suspects. For purposes of our investigation and prosecution, okay, we may have to use some of them as prosecution witnesses. If they give us the offer, fine. If they don't want to cooperate with this evidence, I don't see how they and the suspect will get out of, being convicted. But of course, they will have to be, their guilt will have to be proven beyond reasonable doubt. So I'm not being presumptuous, but we have all the evidence from what you can see from the enumeration that we have all the evidence, including receipts of payments and withdrawals, slips and so on. So this is for suspect Edu Boahen and his wife. Now I want to say something briefly about the oral investigations. Now, in respect of oral, significant work is going on in relation to the investigations of the allegations of looting of state resources contained in the oral report submitted to me a few weeks ago. In view of the fact that these matters are still under investigation, I will not go into the details as I have done with, the case of Boahen. But I can confirm that investigations will conclude in the National Service and SkyTrain scandals by the middle of April for prosecutions to begin. In the National Service scandal, 8 suspects have been interrogated, and a good number of them have started singing. They are cooperating with our they've started singing, literally. Yeah? So we will give you details of their songs at the appropriate time. In view of the fact that, so indeed, we now have evidence of payments that were made into the accounts of the top executives of the National Service by vendors, private vendors, and staff of the scheme. We also have evidence that in November 2024, and listen to this carefully, the CEO of the National Service Scheme and others paid a Ghanaian MP to kill the story in the media and to defend them. Now this is a developing story, and more will come out very soon. In respect of SkyTrain, we can confirm that the 2 million was paid at the request of the chairman of the board of directors of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, that is GIIF, Prof. Ameya Ekunfi, and then and then the CEO, Mr. Solomon Asamoah, who is currently hiding in Senegal. We tracked him first and noticed that he was in South Africa. So he left Ghana somewhere around February 2nd, the 2nd of February, to South Africa. So we were monitoring him in South Africa. And then he left South Africa and is now in Senegal. When we contacted him, he told us that he will not come to Ghana until I think he didn't say April, 3 months from now. Okay, so he's giving us 3 months to come to Ghana, very much like Ken Oforiatta, right? It reminds me of Ken Oforiatta. So he says he will come to Ghana in 3 months. So we are patiently waiting for him. If he wants to be tried in absentia, that is his choice to make. But we have the prosecutorial authority to prosecute him in absentia. And of course, the person who acted with him to transfer that money, the Prof. Ameya Ekunfi, is in the country. So if there is going to be delay, we'll start the prosecution with him being a suspect who is being tried in absentia. So on the SkyTrain, we noticed that there was no board approval for the transaction, and the conditions precedent to disbursement had not been met. The other board members and our review of the minutes of the board of directors have confirmed this fact. So we requested for all the minutes, of the board of directors within the period that this transaction occurred. And our perusal of the minutes show quite clearly that there was no board approval. Also, the interrogation has revealed, that the other board members said that they did not have knowledge of this transaction. In fact, there was one of the minutes where one of the members questioned why the GIF was in a hurry to make payment for this transaction. And no, answer of any significance was given to him by the two persons who, schemed and transferred $2 million of taxpayers' money to a Mauritius company. In fact, we tracked the company to Mauritius, and a lawyer in Mauritius has confirmed to us that it is non-existent. But that's also, a developing story. Now, the money, you see, if you are buying shares in a company, okay, you are buying shares in a company, that's your equity contribution to that company. The money is supposed to be paid into the share account, the shares account of that company. But the money was given to Africa Investment Holdings, okay? And when, it was paid, we noticed that Africa Investment Holdings was paid 100,000 United States of American dollars as the GIF's contribution to equity. And then listen to this, 1.9 million was paid to Africa Investment Holdings as share premium. Now, when you are paying for share premium, for those of you who are accountants and lawyers, well versed in corporate law, share premium is not paid for nothing. It is paid for the performance of the company or the growth of the company and so on and so forth. So the company must have a certain track record, okay? But maybe they know something that I do not know, and in the course of investigation, we may know why. Maybe there is some other principle for paying a share premium, you know, to a company, an SPV that you just incorporated, all right? And I believe that the accountants will confirm that with share premium, it's easy for the directors to take the money than when it is the share, when the money is in the actual share account. So it can tell you that this was done with some criminal enterprise, you know, in mind. But again, I'm not prejudging anything. If we come across evidence, okay, that shows that they are innocent, I will not go to court. I told this country that I will not take anybody to court unless I am convinced that there's evidence to prove the guilt of the person beyond reasonable doubt. And as I've laid out, you can tell from what we have done. And I must thank the Economic and Organized Crime Office, the director, and especially the Deputy Director in charge of operations, Raymond Archer. He led the operations. And on a weekly basis, we met, got briefings, himself, myself, and my deputy, and the team. We got briefings, we didn't talk about it. So I want to let you people know that when I'm investigating something, I will not give media interviews, okay? Because when you grant media interviews on investigations that are unfolding, all right, unless you have grasped the evidence like I now have on SkyTrain and SkyTrain and then the National Service Scheme, okay, those significant progress has been made. And I believe that if I took those two, cases to court, I will obtain a conviction. That is why I'm telling you about them. But free Wi-Fi, okay, and the rest of them are still under investigation. So we are not going to be talking about them. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of the Republic, observed that the entire country was a crime scene, he knew what he was talking about. Some people bashed him for it, but the President knows because I brief him on a constant and a regular basis on what is happening with respect to our investigations. We are working diligently on several dossiers that will shock the conscience of the nation. If what suspect Boahen and his wife has done is like a thriller in Manila, please brace yourself for a rumble in the jungle in the next few weeks. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
So the Attorney General will now field questions from journalists present and media representatives. In order that we have an orderly framework within which to work with. If you have any question, please put up your hand. I'll call you and then you step up to ask. We will take 5 questions at a time. 2 rounds of 5 questions. So please step forward if you have a question. There's a microphone behind you, please.